YouTube, welcome back to another Romz video, and today we got another reaction video reacted to, man. As you guys can see in the title on today's video, 1 conservative versus 20 feminists featuring Candice Owens. This is gonna be very interesting. Very interesting to see how this unfolds. I've not even seen any clips, nothing like that. We're just blind reacting as we always do, and yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what's gonna happen in this one. At the end of the day, so it's about 1 hour 38 minutes. I think we'll do about 3 or 4 parts, as I said, as always. And yeah, before we get to the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff as well. As I said, the original video of this as well will be linked in the description. So if you guys want to do it, watch it without my commentary, you can do. If you guys want to watch my commentary, then stay tuned. Make sure you grab your popcorn, make sure you grab everything you need, because this is gonna be actually very good to see what's gonna happen here. Let's go.
Women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more...
I've seen this woman before. I've definitely seen her before. She looks very familiar, but...
Still doing this and spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay. Hi, my name is Candice Owens. I am a podcaster, a mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And today I am...
What did she just say?
Mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And
Make him a sandwich. Yo. Yo, we're 25 seconds in and this is already getting crazy. Make him a sandwich. Listen, I believe in traditional values. I'm a traditional man, right? But I don't go to the extent where, it goes like, make a sandwich, all that type of stuff. We don't go to that extent at the end of the day. Make a sandwich is crazy. Sometimes as well, like, this is what I've noticed before we carry on. Like these Candice Owenses, who else is there? Who else is the name? Pearl. Pearl's another one. Oh my days, man. Are they just doing it just so they can, get... They call them grifters, right? They're just doing it because, they want to have men's validation, or they actually believe in this shit. Because sometimes when they talk, like... I'll be honest with Candice, like, I don't have a problem with her. Like, she does spit some facts and shit like that. But there's sometimes when she says some stuff, I just think, do you actually truly believe that? Or are you just doing it to, make men believe, like, you're one of them or something like that, like the red pill man's face like that. But make it sound is a crazy statement. I can't even lie. That's something I don't agree with that. I can't even lie. Even me, I have to say that's crazy.
Today I am surrounded by 20 feminists.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
My first claim is that the sexual
revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy. Oh my God. Infinitely less happy. There we go.
Revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy.
It's where they're gonna run to see what's gonna happen.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Samaya.
Samaya, nice to meet you. I'm Candice.
Nice to meet you too. So my question for you is, statistics show that 60% of women who are murdered by their intimate partners, murdered by someone that they are in close relations with. That's according to the UN from 2023.
Yeah.
So how is it that, women are so valued, quote unquote, in the home, and yet that's the place where they're at the most danger?
Okay, so I'm not sure what that has to do with the sexual revolution.
Right, the sexual revolution.
The first claim.
The sexual revolution gave...
I'm happy to answer it. I'm just saying that, if you brought in that statistic...
Is that stat? I don't know about that stat, though. 60% is a very large stat.
You are more likely in general just to be murdered by somebody you know. So, of course...
But men are much less likely to be murdered by, their
That's not
partners.
true.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm sure, because men are less likely to be murdered by women. Full stop. Yeah, exactly. So that statistic makes sense to me. I'm still not sure how this correlates to whether or not the sexual revolution
increased women's ability to leave the house, women's ability to control their own reproductive capabilities, women's ability to, control their own capacity within the workforce in regards to their own sexual capacity. So it is the very fact that the sexual revolution happened that made our access to the workplace much more, or just the public sphere in general, much more easy. So without the sexual revolution, women would be much more confined to the place where they're at the most danger. Isn't that true?
So you think that, just so I'm trying to understand your argument here, you think that if we didn't have the sexual revolution, less women or more women would be murdered? Are you saying that women are
more women would be murdered, for sure.
Okay, I disagree with that. I still don't think it has anything to do with the claim that women are infinitely less happy because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued women.
I think you'd probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Because this guys, no, I'm actually trying to understand my thoughts and stuff. I'm gathering my thoughts as well. So I think every single time like they go to the next person, I'm gonna let the video play as well, just a little bit, see what it's saying. I'm just gathering my thoughts. I'm gonna give you my take as well and all that type of stuff as well. This is what we're gonna do. But yeah, we'll just repeat what she said.
That women are infinitely less happy because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued women. I think you'd
probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Anyone disagree?
Okay, yeah, I don't, okay. There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and domestic violence. And just to be clear, if we're talking about just like monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when people...
A survey from 2013 shows that 61% of bisexual women and 44% of lesbian women reported intimate partner violence, IPV, compared to 35% of straight women, according to Stand for Family Fever. I've heard this stat before, where actually, I'm not too... I think for this kind of segment, I'm not really too sure, so I'm not going to comment too much on this one, but I've heard a lot where literally lesbian women and bisexual women are actually the one that, with DV, domestic violence, are the one that are actually the victims of it, instead of actually being like straight relationships, whereas the man or the woman, which is very, very interesting. It was very, very interesting to look at. As I said, I can't really give you my thoughts on that, because I said I'm not too sure on that one. So, but yeah, it's mad.
Our intimate
that's not a true
that is actually true.
No, the statistic you're talking about is people who have faced domestic violence. Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which they were mistreated.
Lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have on the books.
But we can move on.
They can fact check that claim. The point being is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships, period, whether those relationships are homosexual, whether they're married,
you're saying that the sexual revolution...
Let me finish. I've let you try to explain how this is correlated to happiness, and I don't think it does. I actually think you're having a different debate right now. But yes, absolutely, it makes perfect sense that you are more likely in general when you are in a relationship, because people are driven by anger by people that they know, whether or not we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, a husband and a wife, a husband and a husband, or a wife and a wife. Yes, of course, the instances of domestic violence are going to take place when you're inside of a home. But the sexual...
Oh, this woman's back. I actually want to hear. Listen, you guys seen the reaction video with Romz, man. I want to see her cook. I want to see what she can bring. Will she cook beans and toast, or will she actually cook a mean steak?
Revolution, encouraging women to give up their goods for free, which is what I'm speaking about, and encouraging men not to marry these women or to have long-term relationships. What I am saying is a direct contributor to their unhappiness, because women are giving up their goods for free, and women are now entering the workplace, and that does not actually make them happy.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Just on that first one, I'm be honest, man. I'll be honest, man. Like right now, I'm not really too sure on this one. At the end of the day, like I probably do agree that women are less happy now than what I truly believe. I think women are way more less happy now than what it was back then. I think back then women were a lot more. But then again, if you look at it, then would you say that was it not really happy? They've just accepted it. Like, just because you accept something doesn't really mean you're happy as well. So there's two sides to everything. Like, you can't just look at the one side of the story and just kind of run away with it. Because, yeah, women were probably more happier 50, 60 years ago, before feminism and stuff like that. But were they just because they accepted it? And, they really, if they had to pick an option, they could have changed. That's what I'm trying to think. Like, they maybe just accepted it, but they weren't actually happy. But even then, to be fair, I will be honest, even now, I don't think women are happy either. I don't think men or women are happy. I just don't think anyone's happy at the moment. Like, you don't see much successful relationships nowadays as well, which that contributes to. It contributes to both genders. But as I said, might take, if I had to pick one, men are the problem more than women. If I had to pick one and stuff like that. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean I'm defending the woman either. So it really just depends as well on that type of stuff as well. So I'm not too sure on that first bit, but we'll see what happens in the second segment. Wonder who's getting this one. I can't lie, that trim is hideous, man. That trim is absolutely hideous. The fact you're even running to get in that chair and touching that chair with that trim is crazy.
Hi there. How are you? I'm Candice.
Nice to meet you. Julian, my pronouns are they, them. It's very interesting to think of it when we just think about the gender binary. It's, how do we place value on human beings in general? And so when we think about, placing value, that comes from a place of power, right? So I think let's select like the Victorian era. You have this dominant group of people coming from white supremacy, deciding who gets to have a proper status in the world. And so that is already like taking human beings and devaluing them. And so what the sexual revolution did was to help people seek out empowerment, which increased value, no matter the gender. So when it comes to sexual revolution, let's look at one contribution is sex education. I'm actually an educator. I teach sociology and LGBTQ studies. And I have absolutely seen the positive outcome with the sexual revolution and sex education and seen people empower themselves. And with that comes safety when it comes to decreasing STIs, abuse, sexual assault. Again, people get to empower themselves of all genders. And I know earlier you mentioned about violence amongst lesbians and sapphic community, which I do identify within. All genders can be subjected to violence.
That was the point I was making. So I wasn't sure of how her claim was relating to what we were talking about, whether or not it makes people happy or unhappy. Relationships are obviously a ground where there can be violence.
I guess I could just wrap it up by saying, like, if we all have access to like sex education through the incredible work of feminists through the sexual revolution, we are able to gain access to information and gain skills to create an equitable society, egalitarian.
I think nowadays as well, everyone does have access to sex education because I think they teach in school though. But a lot of people, Bonnie Blue did say this, like, even me, I might have to agree with this one because just because they teach in school doesn't mean they actually will learn a lot about sexual shit, you know what I mean? Like, and I do maybe agree that you have to actually put the action in, like, you have to test it out before you actually, like just because you learn something, you can't just learn something off your brain and then without actually testing something out, you know what I mean? So that was the only thing I would agree with in terms of that aspect as well. So I do think nowadays, sex education is, accessible to every gender and stuff.
In our relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic, I'm so grateful for those feminists who have fought for us so we can gain those spaces and create a healthier society.
Okay, are you a believer in the government doing everything that it can to make people happy?
So when it comes, as someone that teaches in the public...
No, hell no. The government are not, listen, this is my opinion, and listen, I hope I don't get cancelled for this, but the government are not trying to do anything to make you happy. Like, that's just a main thing. Like, they might trick you a few bones. I just treat them like we're like ants and dogs, and then while they're just looking at us and shit like that. That's what I truly believe. So they might throw some good stuff here and there, stuff like that, but in general, like, they're not, because I think if they do that to make people happy, then, as I said, people will never sell. Like, humans, we don't settle. Like, we'll be selling for a little bit, but then we want something new. Like, we want a shiny new toy and everything. At the end of the day, like, we do, as humans, we do get bored easily. So I truly believe that even if the government do want us to make us happy, we won't be happy for much longer because we want something new. And when we get something new, we are very greedy. So we tend to get a little bit more demanding, and we tend to get a little bit more like bitchy, basically. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to think about.
Sector, I understand the concern when it comes to what is a teacher, what kind of information they're providing to the students. I do believe that we, as a teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information. Again, I teach college students. One of my claims is I believe that we should mandate sex education amongst college students. So yes, I do want the state, I would like the government to give us those resources so we can implement that curriculum.
Okay, are you consider yourself a feminist, I'm assuming?
A queer feminist. There's variations, right?
What is a queer feminist as opposed to a feminist, just so I understand?
Well, so I heavily believe in queer theory. So, the gender binary that we understand, it comes from colonization. So someone who is mixed race, family from Mexico, we have the Muxés in Mexico, which is an indigenous tribe. They believed in gender fluidity. And then you have European colonizers coming who dismantle that. And now everything that we understand when it comes to gender is a Western lens. So from a queer...
So you don't even think women exist, I'm guessing.
I think everyone should be empowered to figure out their identity and explore the language that best describes themselves. So freedom, America, right? America, freedom. And I want to believe in that when it comes to identity. Right. Everyone should have the freedom to decide how they want to identify, as long long as they're not causing harm, but that's where we get into the debate, what is harm?
So just, again, to be clear, to go back to this claim, we are debating female happiness. You are saying you do not identify as a female.
I identify with all gender expressions.
I mean,
So from masculinity to femininity.
So I'm just saying, are you just saying that as a part of queer theory, you're debating whether or not women are happier after the sexual revolution? I'm just trying to understand, because it seems like you're debating queer theory as opposed to female.
I believe all genders benefit from the sexual revolution.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please.
She got kicked out, bro. She's like, yeah, hell no. Even the feminists are like, come on, bro, get it. Oh yeah, no, they, them. So they as that person got kicked out.
Turn to your
Crazy.
seat.
Hello.
Damn. Look, she's gonna get it. I need to see her speed, man, because she's funny as fuck.
Hello.
I'm Zena.
Zena. Very much like your name.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Can we start with the beginning? Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued, right, by the sexual revolution. This kind of presumes two things. One, that there has been a loss of worth, right, for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to their sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly
According
sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which it has made women infinitely less happy.
Right. So are you saying, but you're saying that according to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. According to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free, because it was a major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality?
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners, you are going to be
You see this guy's look.
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners, you are going to be devaluing yourself.
You're worth less as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship. Certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when there's the market is throwing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that I would argue that what makes women actually happy is family. So if you're interrupting, so just to connect the dots for you, when women are...
I agree with that. Because as I said, I believe in traditional. So family, for me, family comes first anyway. Like, in general, like, I think if you have a loving family, I think this is why we're brought up in this world, like, to have a good family and shit. Then I think that's the main thing, because at the end of the day, like, as much as, listen, I think maybe for men and women are different, because I think for men, we can kind of value more of a career than family, but like, that doesn't mean like we don't like the family. But then with women, it's kind of like, at least if the man's doing his shit, if the man's actually protective of the person, then yeah, maybe then they can kind of like lay off the career for a side and focus on the women, the kids. Because as I said, being a mum is very, very difficult job, and respect to all the mums at the end of the day. Like, being a full-time, especially a full-time mum, bro, it's a very, very underrated thing. I think a lot of people kind of brush up off, like, yeah, just take care of 2 kids, yeah, like it's easier said than done, bro. Like, it is very difficult as a mum, like, to be a mum, and as I said, the mums out there, respect to them at the end of the day. Going back to the thing I was going to say is that I think for women, as I said, they can kind of like, because I think there's a stat as well. I'm not too sure on the stat, but a stat was like, once they have kids, like, they take more days off, they kind of focus on the kids and shit like that. And I think that's just how women are designed to do, to design, like, to be the nurturer of the kids and shit like that. And at the end of the day, the reason for that, because we're on this earth is to reproduce, and we need to make sure that, as I said, the reason why we're alive today, the reason why you as a viewer are alive today, because of thousands and thousands of years of our ancestors literally reproducing to what we are today. So I think if we kind of like get rid of reproduction to the side and shit like that, then it kind of causes, as I said, depopulation. It kind of causes a lot of people to be unhappy, because that's our natural inkling as humans to reproduce, you know what I'm saying? So that's my point on terms of that bit. But yeah,
having sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So
yes. So
yeah, I do agree with that. Like, for me, it definitely devalues the woman if she has like multiple partners than someone that doesn't have much partners. But then again, to play devil's advocate, the context is needed though. That's the only thing I would say just on Candice's point. I do agree what she's saying, but you can play devil's advocate saying, just because maybe someone has 7 bodies and she has 5 bodies, you could think that 7 bodies, she might be in long-term relationships, but then the 5 bodies, she might just be one night stands. I'm going to pick the one with the long-term relationship because at least that she's not easy. I wouldn't want my woman to be easy. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want women just to be like, yeah, she can give out her naan bread for free, bro. Like, the fuck? What are you talking about, bro? So that's my point. Like, a lot of people just think, yeah, body count, yeah, if you have 10 bodies, bro. First of all, most women nowadays, in my opinion, I won't say they have 10 bodies, but most women are not virgins anyway. Most men are not virgins as well. But in my opinion, like, the context of the sexual partners is the crucial bit, because that makes me prove what type of person she is. And you have to be selective of what type of relationship you want to be as well.
Men define a woman's worth.
Well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth, because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Okay, so you're saying
Not work.
in all cases, a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family. Like,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is going to work in all cases. So you're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel,
I wouldn't say all, but a vast majority, in my opinion. I wouldn't say all, because I think there is exceptions to the rule. Where maybe some women value career, so not everyone wants kids. Not everyone. I believe every human being has a biological inkling to have kids, but people just choose not to at the end of the day. So there's a difference.
fulfilled without being tied to other people in the case of family?
I think there could be an exceptional case for everything. I think there are exceptional cases, but I think that if we all start trying to be the exception as opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people...
This is fact check. There's conflicting research on the topic. Pew Research found that the high percentage of adults want a career or close friends to be fulfilled compared to kids or marriage, while the Institute of Family Studies found married men and women are happier than their unmarried counterparts, largely because they have a family support system. In life are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we see that they also have been the most open in regards to like, sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. We see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's like a direct result of the sexual revolution, right? So when we're seeing that direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see like those rates in those type of countries?
So I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of like a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No, okay, well there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be there's tons of studies. The point being is that in 2023, there was this massive scandal where they recognized that a lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science, was proven to be a complete fraud. And they were unable to reproduce these studies, and they also found that the data had been faked. The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves, we could, I think, reasonably expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Okay, well, how can we, let's measure, then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness. How can we measure happiness? So I would say suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be a good thing to look at.
Of course, right, but we would have to, I can say at this point in society, I don't think everyone is happy. I think there's a lot of things that we need to reconcile in
Okay,
society.
that's what I'm
right?
getting at. So I
Right, but
think
we have to
women are-
look at the cause, right? Why are these things predicted, right? And for example, if we talk about men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally. That's not a sign.
Is it unchanged? So the suicide rate among the women is statistically unchanged. Ooh. So actually, that kind of disproves Candice's point as well. So I didn't know that one. So I like, that's what I like actually. I like they put the fact checks as well, because sometimes people just put stats for no reason, bro, and then thinking, yeah, they're right. But the fact has actually not been unchanged. So that is actually disproving the point.
That us entering the workforce suddenly.
And also as well, what I like about these debates as well is that they're not too heated. Like, it's a very, very so far, like, I don't think they're trying to find a middle ground, unfortunately. And we mentioned this in the Meezy's reaction video, like, these Jubilee episodes, they're not trying to find a middle ground. It's kind of like, I'm right or I'm right. But at least with this one, it's not like it's heated, back and forth, like just flipping, low IQ. This is like a very, very high IQ, like, debate. But not a debate in terms of like making sure, like, we're trying to find a middle ground, just a debate of who's right or wrong, unfortunately. But so far, so good.
How is it a cause of the workforce?
We're also binge drinking at a higher rate.
How's this
We're
cause of
taking
the
opioids at a higher rate?
How is this a cause of entering
Because
the
I
workforce?
think women are being
You think?
put on a pathway aspirationally.
But you're going to have to. You're saying you think this, right? But where's the cause? Like you're not substantiating the claim. You're saying this is what I think. I'm seeing two.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Great job. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Nice to meet you.
So when we're talking about the value of women on a societal scale and how we view each other, right? When you're devaluing us, you're objectifying us. And follow me, I promise. But rape rates have gone down by about half in the last 20
years. Rape rates over the last 20 years are difficult to track because the FBI changed the definition in 2013, which led to a significant increase in cases. So she says it decreased, but it's actually increased. But then again, to play devil's advocate, the FBI have changed the definition. So that kind of like disproves the point, because that means if they change the definition, then it's kind of like more leeway to kind of like people assume that's rape or grape. I should say grape. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Years, right? So if you're saying we're less valuable now, why wouldn't we be suffering at a higher rate?
So is the argument that you're making, just so I understand, that because women are giving up sex for free, they're not being raped?
Every study shows rape is not correlated with just sexual gratification. It is a power structure.
Okay.
So it is about objectifying and abusing women when you rape them, not about whether or not you want sex. What I am saying is that women are less objectified, so therefore we are being raped less.
Okay, so you think that in today's society, because this is pretty wild for me. In the 1950s, you're saying women were more objectified than today in the land of OnlyFans, the Kardashian clan, and women that are essentially.
But then again, I truly believe that women have always been objectified, in my opinion. And I think a lot of girls might not like this, but women have always been objectified, and it's not going to change. Like, women, I'm not saying it's right, but that's just how it is. Like, women are always going to be sexualized. Women are going to be objectified, how it is. I think they've been doing it since the beginning of time. But on the other hand, it's going to become a thing where, like, at least back in the 1950s, you could see why, like, women, like, back then no social media happened, and women were actually a lot more modest and a lot more, like, they weren't, like, going around sleeping with multiple partners back then to the certain extent we have now. But at least with that, you can understand, like, yeah, you know what, yeah, you shouldn't be objectifying. But nowadays, I'll be honest, and this is going to be a very controversial take, some women objectify themselves. You do. Like, you literally go on OnlyFans and go on Pornhub and do that shit, be a porn star and stuff like that, and you expect them not to get objectified. Like, they expect the sim to not just to know you by your personality. No, they want to fuck. They literally want to fuck you, bro. So you can't complain about going to the sex age. Like, If you want to be an OnlyFans porn star, cool, that's fine. But you have to realize you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't just pick and choose what the consequence is going to be. You either do this and have consequences. And some women I just think they don't understand that, the consequences and that. Like, if you're going to do like sexually, if you're going to do like OnlyFans and promoting yourself, you're going to get objectified. That's just how it is.
Putting up their boobs and butts for free on Instagram, you're saying we finally have achieved less objectification, where women can't even get onto an advertising. You can't even advertise a bag without them having to be naked in order for them to get a career as a model. You're saying, oh great, we've achieved actually less objectification.
So I'm not trying to suggest that I think that the over-commodification of women's bodies is positive. But what I am saying is that when you're going to the 1950s, that we shouldn't put this glazed look of, oh, it was so happy. We had single income households and we got to stay home. We also had a pill popping problem. We also reviewed.
I do agree. I will agree on that. It was like some people will say, yeah, I was happy that it wasn't all rosy and good back in the 1950s and 40s either. Like, a lot of people just say, yeah, 1940s, the best era, blah, blah, blah. First of all, you weren't even born, first of all. Second of all, it wasn't as all that as a lot of people think. Like, you gotta relax on that type of thing. It's like, so I've seen this thing on TikTok as well, like, yeah, London back in 2000s, in the 2010s, it's so much better than what it is now. But then you realize that riots were happening, you know, people were like, road men were just being like road men and shit like that, like much more crime was happening. A lot of people just have too much of a sentimental thing. Like, this is what I will agree with the feminists on, like, just because, yeah, like, I don't agree, like, people, I think women are more objectified now than what it was in the 1950s, but it wasn't rosy and green in the 1940s or 50s either for women, in my opinion. That's why they put feminism up for a reason.
As maids, like, we were seen as a house appliance far more than we were as people. And so when you have that kind of objectification where you are in a subservient position, I think we're facing a different form today. But I think that rape is a signifier of a contradiction to your statement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense, but I do want to rebut it on a couple of points. So first, I just want to say, suggesting that objectification has gone downward since the 1950s is wild. That's just a firm no. That is not the truth, and you know that's not true.
Wait, so do you feel like...
Hold on, let me answer your second thing. Okay. Second thing, you then brought up, okay, women were at home, but they were pill popping. Well, you then have to acknowledge we're actually popping more pills now, right? So we have actually increased our amount of pill popping. Women are having overdoses on opioids. And on top of that, since I think 1999, by rate, we are increasing our opioid use compared to men. So women are not popping pills less because we're going into the workforce. That's actually not true at all either. We're also, like I said to you, consuming alcohol more and binge drinking more than we did in the 1950s, which is why I was trying to get her to say, we need to look at actually give me any reasonable metric of how we can define happiness, because it's hard, right? Are you happy, yes or no?
Sure, but wait, hold on. We're actually avoiding what my original point was about rape being the signifier.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Hi.
Hi.
I like your hat.
Whitney Shanahan.
Nice to meet you.
I am
Man, she got the hat, man. She's in for business, man.
by your claim that women have lost happiness since the sexual revolution, since the 1950s. Do you think that there is any tie to happiness and freedom and happiness and choice? Because since 1950s, since the sexual revolution, women have gotten exponentially more freedom and more choice. And for me, as a mother and as a woman, having the freedom to choose what I do, to make my own destiny, makes me infinitely more happy than, say, back before the sexual revolution, when I couldn't get a bank account, couldn't get a home loan, couldn't work outside the home, couldn't travel around without a man.
I will agree on that one.
Couldn't control my own reproduction. So I feel that happiness, personally, my belief, is tied to our ability to have freedom. And I think that in the United States, protecting freedom and our individual freedoms is what's going to lead us to happiness.
Did you go to college?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Did you?
Yes, I did. So you have a degree?
Absolutely.
Now, when you went to college, did you go to college because it was simply something that you wanted to do, or did you think that I have to go to college because in order to get a job, I have to have a college degree?
I went to college for art because I was fascinated with art.
Okay. It's just answering my question. Did you go to college? Was that the only reason you went to college? Or did you think that I might want to do something in art, so I have to go to college, like, for my career?
I wonder where she's going with this one. I think she's trying to go somewhere
To
with it.
school because I wanted to expand my horizons. I mean, I think that's why most people go to university. Why did you go?
That's actually not
Why
true.
did
A lot
you
of
go?
I went, and I think a lot of people go because there's a pressure that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So taking away choices.
Yeah, there's a choice, but to be fair, I will agree with Candice on that one. There's that a lot of people nowadays, especially in this day and age, maybe before like uni and all that type of stuff wasn't as bad, but now with uni and all that type of stuff, like literally a lot of people like, yes, I know some people that literally went there like, and asked them, oh, what do you do? Oh, digital media. Or what do you do? Oh, business. I'm like, bro, like, what are you going to do with that degree? And like, and I asked them, why do you go? Oh, well, my parents told me to go in it. Like, bro, like, you get the picture. Like, nowadays, people kind of get forced to do it as well. That's another thing as well.
Doesn't make people happier. Taking away freedom doesn't make people happier.
I'm disagreeing with you on the idea that people are feeling more free by financial pressure. I think financial pressure makes people feel remarkably less free.
So you want no bank accounts again? Women not to have credit cards?
I'm not saying that women shouldn't have access to credit cards or banking accounts. You're putting words in my mouth, so why don't you respond to the words that I'm saying?
Well, less financial pressure. If I don't have a bank account, that's a lot less financial pressure, I guess, right?
Financial pressure in terms of most people that go to college, and I'm counting myself among them, it's because typically in order to get the job that you're being sold is going to make you infinitely happier and infinitely more free, it just requires a college degree. And most of these people, to be clear, have to put themselves, the majority of people have to put themselves into debt. And I don't think anybody would describe debt as a form of freedom, right? I don't think anybody would realistically say...
Let's get back to happiness. So we're here to talk about happiness and how the sexual revolution, and we're not talking about college debt.
I think it's important because we're talking about...
But the debt does lead to like the kind of the whole thing like of why women are not as happy. But I'm not agreeing that. I'm just saying what she's saying, that women are not as happy where it was back then and stuff as
freedom.
well.
You just said that the reason why I feel happy is because I have more freedom. And I am saying that financial restraints and debt doesn't make people feel more free.
So let's eliminate the debt.
I truly believe that. I don't think women were ever happy, in my opinion, though, like to their full extent. Even back in the 1940s and 30s, I don't think women were happy. They just more acceptance. I truly believe that, in my opinion. So I'm kind of mostly in the middle in this one. And there's always a middle. Like, I don't hear these guys like, oh, it's black and white, it's either or. There's a middle ground into everything. Like, I truly believe that. I don't think even women were actually happy, even in the 1900s and 1910s and shit like that. I think they were just more acceptance back then. Like, they were just accepted where they were. Like, they just knew. But then everything changed when feminism came in now. And I still don't think women are happy now, in my opinion. I don't think most women are happy nowadays. I don't think they are. 100%.
Eliminate college debt. Maybe we should have free college here in the U.S. That sounds great. Great idea, Candice.
Right.
I love that idea. All right.
Okay.
Love it. Woo! Champion for the people. Girl. Very nice. All right. Return to your seat.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you anytime.
As raising children. My second claim is that no career will give women as much joy and fulfillment as raising children.
No career.
Hi, Candice. How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm John. Okay, so
no career. I don't agree with that. No career is crazy. I'll say most careers won't give you fulfillment as joy as raising children, but no career.
I feel like a lot of your arguments today are very rooted in a sort of old school perspective. I have to be honest. Like, I think, and I'm not trying to be insulting whatsoever, I feel as though most people would identify that claim as pretty extreme and pretty like...
Children are extreme?
Well, no, that women would get more happiness inherently from raising kids than having a job or deciding what they want to do with their lives.
Why is that? I'm just curious. Why would having children, which is just a natural biological conclusion, be something that sounds extreme?
I just said inherently.
Well, inherently.
That's the
extreme.
inherent expectation.
Yeah.
That's better for women.
It's inherent because it's biological. So I think when we think about things that are inherent, I think biology is a good thing to start with, right? So biologically speaking, men and women come together, they form families, and that's the reason why you're sitting here. That's the reason that I'm sitting here, is because biology is inherent.
Well,
so
I was
saying
told-
it's just natural order that we're speaking about, right?
Okay, let's break it down. So why do you believe that? Why do you believe that?
Why do I believe that?
Why do you inherently are happier? Yeah.
Okay, you keep stressing this word inherent. So,
Yeah.
I think because it speaks to natural order, and every piece of life, I think, is enriched by children.
You don't think it's natural for women to get to decide what they want to do with their lives?
I do not think that saying women can decide whether or not they want to go to work or have children is problematic. What I'm saying to you is that women will get the most fulfillment from having a family.
Because it's natural.
It's natural, but also children are wonderful and beautiful and
I do agree that most, but I want to say no career. I'm sure there's some careers that, but then again, to be fair, if I'm actually deep in it, she might actually have a point, because naturally, women actually didn't actually have the opportunity to have a career anyway. So if you actually think about it in that aspect, then obviously they're going to pick the children. But the reason why I disagree a little bit with Candice, what you're saying in terms of no career, is because nowadays women actually have the opportunity to have a career. Like, let's be honest, man, and I'm not even trying to be like a flipping feminist or anything like that. I don't even identify myself as one. Like, at least, like, you have to be honest, like, majority of the time, women didn't actually have, like, proper careers and opportunity to have a career and shit like that, compared to what it is today. Like, today is just all new gen type of stuff as well. So in today's day and age, I don't agree with what Candice is saying. But on the other hand, if you want to play devil's advocate, yeah, maybe, obviously, children, I still believe, like, children in general, like, are the most precious thing. And these people might think I'm weird, but not in that way. Like, in general, like, children are the most precious thing ever, like, more than a career, in my opinion. But on the other hand as well, you can play devil's advocate that maybe women didn't actually have the opportunity to have a career back then. So that's why the kind of natural inclination of them having children is more important than the careers, because maybe they actually have the opportunity to have a career. So then that's the only reason. I still think, even if, say for example, what it is today, I still think even now women would cherish children over a career. But I want to say no career. There are probably exceptions to the rule, maybe one or two careers. I'm just giving this. Let's just say, for example, an artist, for example. Maybe someone just doesn't want to have children, but they just want to be an artist, then have children, stuff like that. So that's the only thing I would disagree on. But yeah.
Spiritually divine creatures. I mean, they're amazing. There's everything about having a child. Yes, it's a lot of work. It's beautiful.
I hear that. Well, yeah. Okay, what if there's a little girl born and it's her dream her entire life to be an author or to be, on TV or any of these things, and having children is very expensive. It takes a lot of time. So how is it better for that, and I understand this is hypothetical, but that hypothetical little girl to have children than to pursue these things that would make her happy as she gets older?
I just think that if she publishes the book and she has a child, she would agree with me that the child was more fulfilling and made her happy. That's what I'm happier than the book did, is what I'm saying. And I say this as a published author of a New York Times. I would choose my children over my best-selling book. And I was that little girl who had a dream that, it would be really great if I could share my thoughts and ideas in a book. But it is utter insanity for me to reflect on that and say that I would have rather published Blackout than to have my 3 children.
But why is it rather? You see what I'm saying?
It's not rather. I'm just saying
that's your claim. That's your claim, is that it's better.
It will be more fulfilled. Yes.
Right. So rather.
Well, if it's an either or, if you're saying it's an either or, I'm just saying that if these two things have happened in your life, the thing that will bring you more spiritual fulfillment will be children. And so women who are neglecting that,
if she's just talking women point of view, then yeah, but I want to know in terms of men's point of view if that's the same, because I think that's a little bit more of a different conversation, but I think they're talking more of a women point of view.
The pathway to, strive toward family, because they think their career is going to hug them at night, or they think that when they're on their deathbed, their career is going to come up next to them and say, you were so great to me. I think that they've stepped into a delusion, and I'm hopeful that they wake up from it before it's too late.
All right, pause. Yeah. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Oh, here she is.
Hi.
Naima.
Nice to meet you.
Here she is. I want to see what she's going to cook.
Okay, so currently, women make up about 47% of the workforce. If this were the case and that women were just inherently unhappy.
Women made up about 47% of the US civilian labor force of 2023, according to the Pew Research. That's up from 30% in 1950.
Or unfulfilled working and would just prefer to be at home, why don't they?
because we've made that due to prior feminist waves nearly impossible, because now, which I believe that the reason that the government wanted women to enter the workforce was because it gave them an opportunity to tax a household twice. And so
there's a number of reasons more women enter the workforce. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978, access to birth control, recognition of sexual harassment in the workplace, and the ability of women to apply for a line of credit without a male co-signer.
Goes back to what I was saying, is that there's a lot of financial pressure that is being exerted on young women to enter the workforce, and they do so blindly under this illusion that somehow entering the workforce is going to make you more fulfilled, like getting yourself into 6 figures of debt going to college to then take on a career and be in debt and having to pay student loans while you make $35K is going to make you happier. And I'm saying that isn't actually true.
Okay, so I hear that.
Yeah.
At the same time, would you not agree that that women can both have a career and have children? I mean, you are actively doing that right now.
And I want to be very...
I do agree with that, actually. You can't actually have both, though.
Because I am actively doing it right now. I would be someone that you...
But then there's a point, though, where you have to sacrifice one, though. Like, you can have both, but there's a point where, like, in time where, like, it gets to a point, like, especially for a woman, where, like, you gotta pick one or the other. And I think, for me personally, as I said, and you might hate from this, I think for children are more fulfilling.
An exception, because I get to work from home. I get to wake up in the morning. I don't have a boss, right? I don't have to go into the office from 9 to 5. I get to then therefore spend the entire morning with my children.
So you're an exception, and the 47% of women that make up our labor force are also an exception?
No, the exact opposite. So I'm trying to make it more realistic, because I think it's really bad form when people who are able to stay at home, right, and are able to start working at, 1:00 p.m. as I do after being around their children, the children are running around all day, will then preach to you that every woman can have this. That's not the reality. The reality is that the overwhelming majority of people are stuck behind a desk all day, and they're not happy, they're not doing work that gratifies them at all, and at the same time, they're suspending.
Well, that's just what career you've chosen, but I think that the issue with your
work a 9 to 5, I think that's
okay. Yes, but
right?
if it's the job that is making them unhappy, then maybe they should have chosen a different career path and not the structure of the career itself. But my issue with this is that not only is it claiming that women can't both be mothers and have jobs, which we know to be true because millions of women do that. My mother does that. You are actively doing it right now. But it also is qualifying what every single woman in this country wants without any clear evidence. I mean, there's 169 million women in this country. How can you say that you know exactly what every woman secretly wants? Are you asking them?
That wasn't my claim that I secretly know what every single woman wants. I'm saying that if you measure up at the end of your life, what brought you more fulfillment, your career or children, raising children in your family, we will discover that, and there actually have been studies, people that have gone to people on their deathbeds, and the number one regret that people had was that they gave too much to their careers. And this includes men, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, of course, human relation is going to be valued over money and profit.
So then
but
you
at
don't
the same
disagree
time,
with,
what does that even
with my argument?
I do
at all. You're agreeing with my argument.
Humans prefer humans over a job, but that's not just singular to women. That's everyone. And my question is, what does that even have to, what is the goal of that? Should every woman quit working and just have a child?
Well, I'm just trying to warn you.
No, what she's just saying is that you can have a career, but then it gets to a point in time, because as I said, being a mum's a full-time job. You can't juggle. For me personally, like, I don't think you can juggle being a mum and having a full-time job on top of that as well. You're telling me you can work 5 days a week while having a child, bro. Like, there's a reason why, like, a lot of girls, like women, go into maternity leave. There's a lot of reason why maternity leave exists. There's a lot of reason why they have cut their hours and they go part-time. There's a reason for that at the end of the day, and there's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day. Like, for me, the ideal situation should be like you take care of the child and you can work part-time. That's for me the ideal situation. But then again, you're prioritizing your child more than the job, because at least with the job, like, your job just like 2 to 3 days. I'm not saying, for me personally, like, you don't have to have a job as a woman. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you can't make that your full priority of a child. That's just, for me, that is absolutely ludicrous to me. At the end of the day. And that deathbed analogy is a good point. It really is a good point, because what are you going to be fulfilled more, by a job that by money that's basically printed at the end of the day, let's be honest, or by a child by next knife? For me, like I can't. I'd rather die if I had two children than me if I had no child. I'll take 2 children right now and be broke for the rest of my life, and then just be having the money in the world and all the girls in the world and not have any children. I truly believe this on my life. On my life, I do believe this. I'm not trying to be Lil Durk. On my life, I do believe this. Having children is the most important thing you can do as a human. Like, that's just how it is. Like, it's a very, 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 very touchy thing, but I truly believe in that shit.
That if you decide to suspend that pursuit of family because you think that you have to first climb the ladder, a lot of women make that mistake and they don't end up finding a partner.
But that's their right. It's free will.
You
We
will
live in a
definitely
free
have a right to make a
You don't get to
mistake.
say what people should and shouldn't do.
I don't think my claim is this is what people should or should not do. I'm just simply stating that my claim is that you will be more fulfilled if you focus on
You don't
trying
get to decide
build
what
a
other
family.
people are fulfilled by.
Okay, I'm making my claim here that women are infinitely more fulfilled in the household and raising children than they are taking that 9-to-5 job.
But you have no evidence of that. In fact, you are evidence against your own claim.
I'm not evidence against my own claim.
You are.
I'm saying
You're
that
here at work right now.
I've literally said, I am telling you, women cannot have it all. That is an illusion, and that is an illusion that is stressing women out. And I think it is the reason why so many women are turning to popping pills, why there's been such a significant, more than 1,000% increase since 1999.
But men can have it all. Men can be fathers and have a job, but women can't do that.
I don't think you can have it all.
It sounds like you're devaluing women. I think that women can do everything that a man can do, and men have done this historically throughout time and memoriam.
I think women is our top.
Wait, hold on.
It sounds like
Did you say women could do everything a man could do? All right, man. Listen, guys. How do we tell her? How do we tell her? I don't like women can't do anything a man can do. Men can't do anything. Women, we can't do what you guys did do, and women can't do anything a man can do. That's the most ludicrous opinion I've witnessed so far in this episode. You're telling me, you say, I need to reload that. I'm no way she said that.
I don't think you can have it all.
It sounds like you're devaluing women. I think that women can do everything that a man can do.
Nah. Come on, man. No, that's just not true. That's just generally not true. Like, women can't do stuff men can't do, and men can't do everything women can do. Point, finish, done. Romeo, done. Like, that's a fact. That's not even like an opinion or anything. That's generally a fact, in my opinion.
And men have done this historically throughout time and memoriam.
I think women is our debate topic today. So
women exist in a society with men. We are comparing
women are trying to be both women and men, and that is why women are unhappy today. Is because actually, what's quite ironic about the feminist movement is that
I think women are just trying to be people.
I think women have been taught that being a woman is not enough, and that you have to also aspire to be a man, and that's the irony. It's like a psychological conditioning. What feminists went out and did and said is that in order for women to have value, women need to be like men. And I'm saying that actually women and men are biologically different. There are differences in our behavior. There are differences in our desires. And I think evidence of the feminist movement, by the way, shows us that, because even when women enter into the college education space, the pathways of career that we choose are different from men because we're biologically different, right?
Okay, so let's say that this is true, that women truly are more fulfilled at home. Now, the average cost of raising a child a year is around $21,000 or more. Mm-hmm. So my issue is, are you saying that women should just suddenly stop working and now the onus is entirely on men? Like, the society that you're pitching is not sustainable.
I do agree with that, though, because that's the only thing I will actually will agree with that, because in today's day and age, it can't work where it's very, very difficult to find a man that can literally take care of a child and the rent at the same time. It's very, very difficult to find that. Children are expensive. So this is the thing I will agree with in terms of that. But on the other hand as well, for me, how I should do it, I don't mind your woman working in a day, but it gets to a point where that's where the man should step up anyway and have the money to even supply that shit anyway. But in terms of one income household and shit like that, as long as the man's doing their shit and stuff like that, and let's be honest, there's mostly shitty men out there, so that women can't even stay at home and do that shit anyway. It's very, very difficult to find that man unless he's willing to cheat, and then you have to share with the guy, which most women want to share with a guy anyway. So
economically,
it was sustained economically,
but it's not right now.
All right, pause. Naima, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Hi. Ceci.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So your claim is that women will be happier at home. I think you're conflating, though, happiness with importance, because I get what you're saying, where a woman can write a book and have kids, but the kids are always going to make her happier. But I think it just means that kids are always going to be more important, not necessarily make you happier. But also, piggybacking on Naima, we don't live in an economy where people typically can have a one-income household, right?
Yeah, sure.
Whether it be the mom or dad that stays home.
Yeah.
And so I think, and you keep bringing up the 1950s, which,
because it was right before the fact.
I just don't know if that's the period of time that you want to go back to.
No, it's just, I'm just going back to the first wave of feminism.
But you want to undo progress that's been done. So I'm curious as to what decade you'd be comfortable living in, especially as a Black woman.
Okay, so we're gonna park aside the race politics, because I want to focus on.
Okay, then as a woman, what period of time do you want to go back to?
Just as a woman, I think that it was probably a better environment for women when we understood that raising our children was.
I don't really agree with that though. Like, listen, I know it's cooked today, but to be fair though, like, even as a woman, I think you prefer it now than the 1940s and 50s, because they didn't have access to anything at the end of the day. Like, I mean, someone wouldn't want access to anything, which is fine, but then again, if you look at it, that's because of the knowledge we know. We would have probably preferred 1950s or 40s if we were born in the 1940s or 50s, but now we're actually born in 2020, we're not in 20, but you get the picture, like, in this day and age, we're living through it. You have all the knowledge to know that there is freedom out there. But if you didn't know freedom even existed, you probably wouldn't have liked having freedom, because you didn't know that existed. So, see, this is the thing about Candice, man. Sometimes I think she's coping. I do agree with that point. You can't live off a one-income household. I mean, you can actually, no, that's a lie, but it's very difficult to live in a one-income household. Like, it's very, like, a minority of men can do that. Can do that.
But some women still do understand that.
Right.
And a lot of women
and I'm one of them.
And I'm here advocating for you to be able to live the life that you want, and for other women to be able to live the lives they want.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay. You have a career, I presume?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you work at? What field do you work in?
I do hair.
Okay. Wonderful. So I have both children and a career, as somebody pointed out. And so the fact that I'm saying that you will be infinitely more fulfilled at the end of the day by raising your children than you will be if you come home and you say, wow, I really crushed it dyeing somebody's hair today. What is it exactly that makes you angry about hearing that? Like, that's what I'm actually trying. I'm trying to get to the implicit revolution.
That's the thing, is that no one
when
is
someone
angry.
mentions children.
No, see, no one's angry when you mention children. I get angry, I guess, when you mention that someone should have a children, or you're trying to impose a lifestyle onto people that you want to live, which I think is kind of funny, because as someone who's anti-feminism, you practice it more than most women do. I mean, every time you get on your podcast, every time you collect a check, you're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
No, that's what it is. Because without feminism, you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying, I hate when people say that.
But it's just
shows that you haven't done the research.
Okay, I see what she's doing. So without this feminism, but she basically, that's actually funny. She's trying to call out her career, because obviously she goes on podcasts basically flaming feminists. So without feminism, she probably wouldn't have a career. But then again, she probably would have been happy with that, because she values more of a child. So I think in terms of a woman having a career, I think it's detrimental for men to make a lot of money. I don't think it's as detrimental as women to make a lot of money. Ideally, they should be making a lot of money, but it's not like the end of the world compared to a man. If you don't make enough money as a man, you're finished. You're cooked. Like, you are generally cooked, bro. Like, in this day and age, no one cares about, not much people nowadays care about guys as much as anyway. So I do agree, like, in terms of like, so she's trying to say as well, just that the feminist there, she does actually make a decent point, that she's saying that she thinks that Candice is portraying it to people and stuff like that, which I do hear where she's coming from. But on the other hand, it is, in this day and age nowadays, I'm guessing now the biologically hardwiring is kind of like filtering off now. So I don't think much people want to have kids, but it is a biologically inkling, like to I do believe in like in God and stuff like that, and I'm a Christian and all that type of stuff. So religion just play a part, but like, you are brought up in this world to reproduce and stuff like that. But I guess some people just don't want to believe that. Some people believe we're just here to work and career, which I don't agree with it. But listen, if that floats your boat, it floats your boat.
research to even understand where the
Or you don't know history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means that you don't understand that a bunch of government officials in the CIA funded the feminist movement. So for all of your hatred for the patriarchy,
I'm so confused.
and
So my question is it
That's true. Women actually didn't fund feminism. They're the figurehead of feminism. We already know who funded it, man.
bad that they funded it, or bad that it just happened?
Men wanted women to go into the workforce. The government, which had a lot of men, it was being.
Are you talking about because World War II occurred and we had to go to factories, and then when we left the factories, they forced us back into the homes?
That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me tell you what I'm saying, and then you can respond to it.
Go for it.
Gloria Steinem is considered to be a feminist icon, right? Because she led these protests. She also had a bunch of music festivals. She got students involved. It is just a fact that Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA, okay? The CIA, being the male-dominated CIA of the 50s and the 60s, funded those movements. So what do you think was the explicit aim? Do you think it was because the government really wanted you to be more free, that they wanted to encourage women to enter
Well, I have to be honest with you, I couldn't speak on behalf of the government.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And what their intention
Well, I think it's important because you just said that I don't know history. And I think it's pretty important if you're going to sit across from me and say, I don't know history, that you learn a piece of history and then question as
you keep bringing up men. And I think it's funny because we should talk about men more. Like you brought up suicide, they're 4 times more likely to kill themselves.
Which is why I don't.
And while women, we're twice as more often on antidepressants, but that's because we go out and do what we need to do to keep coping.
Because we're not happy.
And we need to focus on men and the patriarchy because it's actually oppressed them just as much as women now emotionally, right? Because when we're kids, our parents teach us how to cross the street. Look both ways so you can get the other side unharmed. When a boy comes across a feeling, and I'm using men and boys here because they're the ones suffering, women are too, but emotionally. When they come across a feeling they haven't felt before, we have to teach them how to get to the other side and cope with it. Otherwise, they stay where they are. That anger and resentment builds. That's the feeling they become most comfortable with. That's the feeling they go to first in most situations. So we need to stop telling our boys that they don't cry, because they do. They just do it alone, and then they become even more alone.
All right. Jasmine, nice to meet you.
Yeah, she's
okay, so
definitely seen her before.
you say that women are more fulfilled at home with kids than going out into the workforce or getting educated, but that just really doesn't bear out when you look at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty. Maternal education is the #1 predictor of childhood outcomes, better scores, getting higher incomes in the future, fewer behavioral problems, better mental health. So it's weird to me and college educated women are least likely to get divorced, and they're the only women, the top 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely to report being depressed, they're more likely to report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things. So how can you say that? Seems like a woman,
Where did that start come from, that the stay-at-home mothers are way more likely to be depressed?
Married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics, because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be amazing. Okay, because I know, like I said, I think what we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research, University of California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their children are not faring off any better, and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is that obvious? Because you said so?
No, it's not obvious because I said so. It's because when you look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing not to have families, they are, as the person who just sat here before you mentioned, they are suffering from more depression, they're suffering from more anxiety. And
that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women who are choosing their careers over starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression, because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking working to find a partner and to start a family because they were instead pursuing their careers.
And why are they better off?
It is a dishonest, it's totally a dishonest narrative that men and women want the same things out of life. We don't. We absolutely do not want the same things out of life. In fact, we don't even measure success the same. Men and women don't even measure success the same.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, but tell me how the women who are working and getting educated, why are they faring off better in all of these?
I am telling you that I do not believe they are faring off better in all of these measures.
Because of what?
I am telling you that we are looking at totally opposite statistics. Like, so you're sitting here telling me that the statistics show that women who are working are producing better children, but I am saying that women that grow up in a two-family home where the mother stays at home are faring off better than the children who are being raised in an environment
where the women are working,
where both of the parents are working away from the home. I do get to work from home.
No. But
that's the irony.
I've watched your show. You talk about all the nannies you hire, and it's so hard to find a good nanny.
I talked about all of the nannies I hire, but I spoke about how difficult it was to find a babysitter who knew how to cook a meal, and that's because
you don't need a babysitter. You could retire right now.
Let people respond to you when they're speaking.
You don't want to
respond to you when
no, you don't want to. You want to be working, which is great.
You know when this is the thing. You know when you start cutting the other person off, bro. That's when you kind of know, like, emotionally they're not there, man. In a debate, man, you got to always let the other person speak, even if you don't agree with it. Just let them say the last piece of their day, because then you can at least articulate everything they've said and kind of make a more of an informed decision. If you kind of just if I just know, like, say for example, it's happened to me where people just, I'm in like a debate or something and they just cut me off, bro. That's when I just know that there's no point even arguing. Men or women, bro. Like, there's no point even arguing, bro. Like, they're just retarded, bro. Like, I'm be honest, they're just dumb. You're just dumb. Like, I don't get why, like, you let the other person speak and then you gather your thoughts and let you speak. Just because they have the last say doesn't mean they win the argument. That's a lot of people need to understand that sometimes, man.
Me what I want now and then accusing me of telling you.
Wait, you don't want to work?
Can you just let me finish? Because you've said so many words that what you're trying to do here, like your argument style, is I'm going to say so much and not let her get a word in and then walk away and feel like I've won. We're not having a conversation because you've not letting me respond to one of your points. Okay? What I am saying to you, first to answer what you just said, which was a lie, what I spoke to you about on the weekends is that it's been increasingly difficult to find a 25-year-old who even knows how to make boxed macaroni and cheese, right? And that's crazy. That is in large part due to feminism. Women don't even focus. Like there's this idea that women shouldn't be cooking. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with women even learning how to cook.
Are you spending as much time with your children as you possibly can? Because that's the way to get the most fulfillment.
No, and that's what I'm trying to say. I am speaking to you
then stop.
Okay, could you please let somebody get in
I did.
a word edgewise?
I let you finish.
You're not. You actually have not let anybody finish. And like I said, no one benefits when you're just speaking over me and not allowing me to respond. All you're proving is that you have an attitude and you believe in feminism, but you're not. See, that's what I'm saying. You just have an attitude, and it's not cute. It's performative.
I'm actually address my point. I will be quiet if you address my point.
Does anybody actually feel here that I am being allowed to address any of her points?
Candice, all right. Just we get it. Let's just
running over me. Like I'm literally trying to answer your first point of you saying that I don't stay at home.
What'd you say?
Answer your first point of you saying that I don't stay at home.
Yeah,
fair point.
Really weird.
Fair point. Obviously, I get that you're all anti-Candice and pro-feminist, but also it's not productive if you're not actually.
Okay, address the point. You spend more time saying that I'm not addressing that you don't have a chance to talk. I mean,
you're saying about 2 minutes in, man. Let's say
time you could have addressed the point. Okay. You could have talked.
I
go for it.
Just want you to know that you're not coming across as somebody who wants to actually have a conversation. So to get back to the claim, because I don't even know where you're at. You're now talking. You're saying that I said stuff in my podcast.
I'll go wherever you want to go.
I never said.
I'll go wherever.
So do you want to start with me working at home? Because I work at home. You just said something about me working at home.
You travel all around the world.
Okay,
you do speeches, and I love that. I love how ambitious you are. That's a really great trait. And if you were truly said that, you would be more fulfilled. Now, one thing you do find is women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions, like you have. And I think
in this day and age, 100%.
Should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this and spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay.
All right, and then that's part 1 of the debate done, man. This is a longer ass episode, 1 hour 7 minutes in. But yeah, listen, man, we're doing it in a day. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video. That's part 1 of the Jubilee 20 Feminists versus Candice Owens. got my throat's about to go, but I hope you guys enjoyed that just like I did. Yeah, just on that, I'll be honest, man, it's a very, very close debate. It's a very, very close debate. There's some stuff I do agree with the feminists, I'll be honest, in terms of women are way more fulfilled. I do think, like, women do prefer, like, something that's more flexible than just staying at home fully. In this day and age and stuff like that. But also I do agree with Candice, like, I think nowadays, like, women are not happy, like, women are just not happy. So I do see both sides of the day, and I think I'm just moderating it really well and stuff like that. But anyway, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's part 1 of the Candice and feminist debate. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff as well, and I'll see you guys for part 2. Peace.